Someone asks you the question. It happens every year, right on schedule. So, what's the plan for your birthday? And you give them the most honest answer you have. Nothing, really. It's just a regular day. And just like that, you're the problem. Friends get that look on their face. Family members take it personally. And somewhere along the way, society decided that if you're not blowing out candles and posting a filtered photo of yourself holding a balloon, something inside you must be fundamentally off. But what if it's not? What if skipping the celebration doesn't mean something is broken, but actually points to something deeper going on in your mind? Because researchers have genuinely looked into this. And what they discovered tells you far more about the people raising their eyebrows at you than it does about you. This is for the people who've never quite fit the birthday script. Whether what you feel is quiet sadness, hard-won maturity, or something you've never been able to name. Group 1. The people life taught not to hope. Let's begin with the group that rarely gets acknowledged. These aren't people who rationally decided birthdays aren't worth the effort. These are people whose experience gradually trained them out of expecting anything at all. Back in 1967, psychologist Martin Seligman identified a pattern he called learned helplessness. When a person faces repeated disappointment over something they can't control, the brain eventually stops anticipating a positive outcome, not out of weakness, but out of pure efficiency. It's adaptation, and birthdays, when you think about it, are basically a yearly test of your brain's prediction system. Here's how the neuroscience works. Your brain is constantly running predictions. Researchers studying dopamine discovered that it doesn't just fire when something good happens, it fires in response to the gap between what you expected and what actually occurred. So, when you're young and you expect the party, expect your friends to remember, expect to feel genuinely celebrated, and that doesn't happen. Not once, not twice, but repeatedly, year after year, your brain eventually updates its model. It stops predicting the reward. The anticipation fades. And eventually, you stop caring. Not because you never wanted to, but because your brain quietly decided that hoping costs more than it returns. So when someone tells you their birthday is just another day, really listen to that. That sentence didn't come from indifference. It was constructed slowly and carefully. From repeated letdown. The calm way they say it isn't coldness. It's a coping mechanism that became a personality group. Group 2. The ones who simply forgot now. This second group looks completely different from the outside. These are people who genuinely don't remember their own birthday is approaching, not because of any emotional weight attached to it, but because their brain is simultaneously managing about 17 different priorities, and the date just didn't make the cut. Psychologists refer to this as time blindness, and it's far more widespread than most people realize. When you're buried in a project, chasing a deadline, or simply living a life that demands your full attention every single day, the calendar becomes noise. Weeks blur together. Dates lose their edges. For these people, their birthday isn't being avoided or suppressed. It just got filed under non-urgent right alongside that dentist appointment. They've pushed back 3 times, and the errant list that somehow keeps growing. This isn't a lack of self-care. It's actually a sign of how much they're carrying. One personal date simply slipped through the cracks of a very full life. If that sounds familiar, you already know exactly what I mean. Group 3. The ones who looked at the whole thing and said, "I'm good then." There's a third group entirely. These people didn't forget. They're not carrying old wounds. They examined the whole ritual of birthday celebration and, without any drama, decided it simply wasn't something they needed. Not because they're guarded, not because they're lonely, not because they're making a point. They just genuinely don't feel a pull toward it. And science actually has a framework for understanding why researchers who spent decades developing what's known as self-determination theory found something consistent among the most psychologically grounded individuals. Their sense of well-being comes from within. It's not dependent on external events, social rituals, or a room full of people performing a song nobody asked for in a restaurant. There's also a concept called the hedonic treadmill, the cycle, where you chase the next celebration, the next milestone, the next external moment that's supposed to make you feel something, and it never quite delivers what you hoped. People in this third group stepped off that treadmill, either consciously or instinctively. They're not missing out. They just stopped outsourcing their sense of worth to the calendar. Think about what that actually means. While most people wait for one designated day each year to feel valued, these individuals figured out how to feel whole on an ordinary Wednesday, with nothing special scheduled. And here's why that makes other people uncomfortable. It challenges the assumption that everyone requires the same things. That ritual equals meaning. That you should want the cake and the fuss and the attention. When someone clearly doesn't and is fine, it quietly disrupts a belief a lot of people have never questioned. These people don't need a date circled on a calendar to know they matter. The 8-year-old still waiting, but not everyone arrived at that peaceful place without a journey. Picture a child who has been counting down to their birthday for weeks. They told everyone at school. They imagined the moment clearly. The balloons, the gathering, the feeling of being the center of something joyful just for one day, and then the day arrives, and it's quiet. Someone forgot. Or the people they counted on didn't come through. Or the reality was just a much smaller version of what they'd built up in their mind. They didn't fall apart in front of anyone. They just quietly recalibrated. Expected a little less the following year, then less again the year after that. Most people don't realize is that the brain doesn't simply move past emotionally significant dates. Research has shown that our minds tend to re-experience the emotional weight of painful anniversaries. Each time they return, a phenomenon sometimes called the anniversary effect. The calendar keeps moving. The emotional memory doesn't always follow. That child is still in there somewhere, in more people than you'd think. Freedom or fear? An honest question here's a distinction worth sitting with, because it matters. Research on how people derive their sense of self-worth found that some individuals disengage from celebrations, not from a position of genuine contentment, but from self-protection. They're afraid that if they allow themselves to want it, and it doesn't go the way they hoped, it will confirm something they already quietly suspect about themselves. So they opt out entirely. Not from strength, from armor. That is a fundamentally different thing from the person who simply doesn't need external validation to feel whole. Both people might look the same from the outside. Both might say the same words, but only one of them is actually free. So if you're watching this, it's worth asking yourself honestly, is this genuine peace, or is it a very convincing defense? Only you know the real answer. And the fact that you're willing to even ask it that already tells you something meaningful about yourself. Maybe we've been measuring the wrong thing. We've been handed a script that says celebration equals caring. That a big deal made out of your birthday is proof of your worth. That silence on that day means something is missing. But what if that equation has always been backwards? What if the most authentic version of self-respect isn't throwing a party, it's genuinely not needing one? Maybe someone watching this right now spent their last birthday in complete quiet, not out of loneliness, not because nobody cared, but because the stillness of it finally felt like enough. If that's you, you're not broken. You're part of a quiet group of people who stopped waiting for permission to feel whole. And if you needed to hear it said out loud, you have it.